Despite averaging just 8 points, 6 rebounds, and 1 block in college, Khaman Maluach has star potential. Some view him as a future Defensive Player of the Year candidate, and others have even compared him to Joel Embiid. In today's video, I'm going to justify the hype for Khaman Maluach and explain why he was a steal for the Phoenix Suns. Before we get into it, make sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe. I'm trying to hit 1,500 subscribers by the start of next season, and your support goes a long way. With all of that being said, let's get into the video. What stands out with Maluach is his sheer size. He's nearly 7'1" and has a wingspan just under 7'7". These physical tools are similar to that of Chet Holmgren, but unlike Chet, who weighs in at 213 pounds, Maluach is listed at 252. Despite all of this, there are concerns about his lateral movement. At the draft combine, Maluach performed poorly in the lane agility test and shuttle run. His numbers were worse than Zach Edey's last year, and everyone was worried that Edey would be too slow to defend in the NBA. While the numbers at the combine weren't great, the eye test tells a different story for me. Maluach doesn't cover ground as quickly as Bam Adebayo or Anthony Davis, but he's not some slug either. On top of that, Maluach plays defense with active hands and a high motor. On the screen, I'm showing a bunch of plays where Maluach absolutely blew up offensive possessions for the opposing team. As you can see, Maluach routinely keeps his arms extended, which makes it hard for ball handlers to get off shots or make passes. There are many times where Maluach doesn't get a steal, but because he has active hands and a high motor, he makes opponents uncomfortable and causes them to commit turnovers. The same thing can be said for his block numbers. At Duke, Maluach averaged 1.3 blocks per game, which doesn't necessarily wow you. However, he's good at going straight up when contesting shots at the rim, and while that won't show up on the stat sheet, he's deterring lots of drives and altering many shots by doing so. Now on the offensive end, Maluach does have a limited skill set at the moment. The thing is, Phoenix didn't draft Maluach to score 20 points a night. Instead, they'll want him to set strong screens, grab offensive rebounds, and finish well around the basket. At Duke, Maluach showed that he can excel in all of these areas. He was able to set bruising screens to free up shooters. He was relentless on the glass, averaging 5.2 offensive rebounds per 40 minutes. And although most of his shots were around the basket, he made 78.4% of his shots at the rim. Additionally, there is a belief that Maluach has more untapped potential on offense. While he only went 4 for 16 on threes in college, there is optimism surrounding his jump shot. Maluach hit 76.6% of his free throws at Duke, and he showed flashes of a soft touch when he was playing in the BAL. He's also shown off some ball handling skills in his young career, and this could really be tapped into if he develops a reliable outside shot. If Maluach becomes a great defender in the league, and he does all the little things offensively like setting screens, grabbing rebounds, and finishing in the pick and roll, the Suns will be thrilled. However, we do have to discuss his weaknesses as well. While I like Maluach defensively, he's not perfect on that end. There are times where he can be a bit aggressive going for blocks, which puts his team out of position, and there are concerns about his hands because he wasn't great at securing defensive rebounds in college. In Duke's Final Four loss to Houston, Maluach had 0 rebounds and 4 fouls in 21 minutes. He's currently better on the offensive glass because it doesn't require as much technique. He can simply hustle after rebounds, and there's not as much at stake if he fails to grab an offensive board. That being said, if Maluach ends up being a good but not great rim protector, an inconsistent defensive rebounder, and someone who also struggles to defend in space, that would be worrying and it would certainly put a cap on his potential. Still, I'm optimistic about Maluach as both a defender and rebounder in the NBA. He cares about playing defense, he has good defensive habits for the most part, and he possesses physical tools that simply can't be taught. On top of that, he's shown an ability to catch lobs in traffic, so if his hands are good enough to finish plays like this, it makes me think that he could improve as a defensive rebounder. He's not perfect right now, but he has a strong foundation, and I believe he'll be able to iron out his defensive weaknesses over time. On the offensive side of the ball, Maluach won't have a huge workload, at least early on in his career. While he's drawn comparisons to Joel Embiid, a comparison like that is pretty unrealistic. As I touched on, Maluach displayed some shooting and ball handling abilities in the BAL, but he had more freedom there than he did at Duke. Maluach had a limited offensive role with the Blue Devils, and at times that caused him to look stiff and timid. Though there's optimism that he could become a good shooter, Maluach rarely looked at the basket when he had the ball outside of the paint. He also averaged just 0.5 assists in college, so he wasn't exactly putting the ball on the floor and creating opportunities for others. Maybe Maluach will be able to tap into the offensive potential he showed in the BAL, but a more realistic outcome has him focusing on screen setting, crashing the offensive glass, and catching lobs in the pick and roll. If he can develop those other skills, that would be great, but it's not something I would count on just because he's shown flashes. As I discussed in my video on Ace Bailey, Cooper Flagg and Dylan Harper were the only prospects people could come to a consensus on. They were seen as the surefire top 2 picks, but after that there wasn't much agreement on who should go 3, 4, 5, and so on. That being said, Maluach is someone I would have taken a chance on as high as 3. Obviously there are concerns with him, but Maluach has tremendous potential, coupled with physical tools that can't be taught. I think he's going to be a great defender in the NBA, and offensively I can see him thriving in a play finisher role with the potential to provide a little more than that. Maluach will also have the chance to develop slowly now that the Suns have acquired Mark Williams. He'll likely come off the bench to start his career, and that will ease some pressure in his early years as a pro. All in all, Khaman Maluach was a great pick for Phoenix, and in a few years I'm confident that we'll look back on him as a steal from the 2025 draft. Anyways, that's going to be all for today's video. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. With all of that being said, I'm out, and I'll see you in the next video.